Hi folks, Florida Man here. Today, we are reviewing one of the most unusual, but potentially powerful alliances in diplomacy, a dynamic and fast-moving force on the map, the Austrian-Italian-Russian, or AIRhead Alliance. You can tell by the lack of a catchy name, as well as the interesting list of powers involved, this alliance is obviously pretty unusual. Typically, when Italy and Russia are friendly, they meet up in Vienna and Constantinople for cocktails and Turkish delights. Austria would typically be just one of the odd men out in this. But sometimes the three of them come to a gentleman's agreement, and it can have a transformative impact on a game when that happens. For those reasons, I think it's a matter of strategic interest to the viewers of this channel, how it works, what the pros and cons are, how long it typically lasts, and who benefits and who loses as a result of this alliance. So let's talk about it. The way this alliance works can go one of a couple of ways. They can all go after Germany first, occupying Tyrolia, Bohemia, Silesia, and Prussia, all at nearly the same time, and then pushing west, or they can all attack Turkey first. The way that looks is something we see a lot, frankly. Whenever Turkey gets attacked by Russia and Austria early on, Italy will frequently try to get a piece of the action. The initial issue with either approach is the limited regions in which expansion is possible. Germany only has 3 home centers, so it's hard for all 3 of the parties to this attack to actually meaningfully benefit from it. The same is sort of true about the prospective attack on Turkey. It only has 4 centers traditionally, including Bulgaria. One way to make this alliance work, despite that, is partially to solve one problem with another, i.e., invade both countries at once, or in rapid succession, so that there's plenty to go around. And you have to make some thoughtful choices about who gets what. Probably Italy will get a slightly larger piece of Turkey, Austria will get the lion's share of Germany, and Russia will take Denmark and go after England, while Italy and Austria proceed west against France. If you manage to make all of that happen, things will be going pretty well, really. Usually the alliance doesn't make it much past butchering poor Turkey, though. So the pros of this alliance are, it's very powerful and difficult to counter in the regions of the map where it's active. It all but guarantees the destruction of Turkey and makes the defeat of Germany very likely as well, and it can move fairly rapidly toward the destruction of all relevant enemies. There's also the upside that where it attacks Germany, frequently England and or France will pile on as well, seeing that Germany is doomed. So this alliance should succeed at basically whatever it tries. The big con of this alliance, as I've sort of hinted, is it doesn't generally last very long. It typically eliminates one of the major adversaries, and maybe an attack begins on the other, when suddenly Austria is stabbed by Italy or Russia or both, or Austria stabs one of his allies. This alliance is like walking a tightrope or threading a needle for Austria. It requires exquisite balance. The tension of these 3 powers working together will almost inevitably come to a head at some point, and one or more will begin fighting another. This alliance is almost geographically incapable of lasting until the endgame. Think about how awkward and difficult it is for Austria to get to France without going through Italy at all. Much easier for Russia to take German centers and attack Austria than to stretch for an attack on England through Scandinavia, an attack that England will see coming from a mile away. Much easier for Austria to attack Italy, or Russia, than to try to squeeze its military through Germany and into the area around France. The only one this alliance is actually somewhat convenient for is Italy, who will have the choice of moment to stab Austria in, and who normally attacks France anyway when he's in the much more conventional Austro-Italian alliance. For Italy, the instability of this alliance can usually work to his advantage. In short, the big con of this alliance is that it's highly unstable. Every member of the alliance knows there's a decent chance it will end up with sort of an East European standoff, in which everyone has a gun to everyone else's head, and they all pull the trigger and then spend the rest of the game flailing at each other. That is a big con. Although I would note that for all 3 powers involved, I think the upsides will frequently outweigh the downsides. The alternative is often a war that would lead to standoff with Turkey and Russia facing off against Austria and Italy, and no activity at all is only slightly better than actually being destroyed, since it allows the Western powers to finish their infighting and come after Russia, Austria, and Italy, leaving Turkey the only one alive. This alliance is a decidedly better result than that. So let's talk about who wins and loses when the AIRhead has all the necessary players on board, and actually gets going. The big losers are obviously Turkey and Germany, in that order. I would say the next big loser is either going to be France or Austria most of the time, although it's also possible that Russia or Italy gets stabbed. England will only rarely be a loser in this situation, because Russia will either be distracted while fighting Austria after Turkey and Germany disappear, or Russia will be too small in the north to really threaten England on its own, and it's unlikely that France will help Russia out in England, given that France will be suffering an attack of its own from Italy and or Austria. As for the big winner, it will usually be either Russia or Italy. Some of the time it's Austria, but most of the time Austria will end up a dead duke. If Austria can find a way to make sure he's growing as quickly or more quickly than his neighbors, and he's not leaving any tempting openings for either of his allies, and he can make sure he's the first to stab, then it can be good for him. But that's a whole lot of if. And that's really the big fault with this alliance. Any alliance where I'm not sure one of the powers involved is really one of the winners is an alliance that power should probably be reluctant to get into. Perhaps more accurately, Austria should be allies with Italy, and should trick Russia into thinking they're part of it too, only to immediately betray him once Turkey falls. Or Austria should do that to Italy. Probably Austria shouldn't ally with both Russia and Italy, with a sincere expectation that it will last a long time. Because while hope springs eternal, it won't feed your peasants when they're invaded by Italy and Russia. On the other hand, the AIRhead Alliance works really well at the things it's actually meant to do. So it is worth considering, especially if the alternative is to be on the outside, looking in. Some alliances are meant to be temporary. That's the whole reason why the phrase, alliance of convenience, exists. I hope you enjoyed this alliance overview and found it helpful. If so, I hope you'll like, subscribe, and check out more Florida Man diplomacy videos. Please join me in thanking the folks whose names are now on screen, who have gone above and beyond to support the channel, by either contributing to my Patreon or writing subtitles, and feel free to join them in providing that extra support. We also appreciate comments, which boost the videos in the algorithm and make it more likely that fellow diplomacy fans will discover Florida Man diplomacy. Until next time, Florida Man out.